Yang Berhormat Dato Mukhris Tun Mahathir, Deputy Minister of International Trade and Industry, Datin, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to this event introducing you to GCEL's Global HumaWealth Programme and its wide-ranging concept of connecting the strengths of the world community and creating well-being across humanity. My name is Stewart Forbes. I'm the Executive Director of the Malaysian International Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and I'm very happy to be introducing this event to you this morning. I do not intend to go into greater detail on the GCEL programme at this moment. There will follow me speakers who will be far better at explaining the concepts, the benefits and the implementation of this initiative than I could. Let me, however, thank Global Coalition for Efficient Logistics, or GCEL, for setting up this morning's presentation and for arranging the distinguished speakers who will provide you with an insight into a global community initiative designed to improve efficiency and productivity in logistics and, as a result, drive down cost and stimulate growth. Supporting GCEL today in this event are organisations which have a huge interest in the effective growth of trade and business in Malaysia and around the world. From the financial community, we have the Association of Banks, representing the majority of domestic and foreign banks in Malaysia. We have the Business Community Management Institute, promoting business community management and disaster recovery on a global scale. Then there is MDEC, the Multimedia Development Corporation, which, as you know, is dedicated to ensuring that Malaysia is the world's best environment to realise the benefits of ICT. And my own organisation, the Malaysian International Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Malaysia's oldest trade association, and a champion for domestic and international business in Malaysia for now over 173 years. And perhaps most importantly, we are honoured by the presence of Yang Berhormat Dato Mukhris today, demonstrating the special interest the Ministry of International Trade and Industry takes in all things to do with Malaysia's industrial and trading well-being. Thank you, Dato, for being with us today. I do not need to tell those present with us today that we live in uncertain economic times. As captains of industry, I'm sure you are very well aware of the trials and tribulations going on today. Globally, the recovery from the financial crisis and associated economic slowdown of 2008 and 2009 seems interminable, with perhaps the exception of Asia. Multilateral trade negotiations have now been stalled for years, and in their place, new bilateral and plurilateral agreements, such as the Trans-Pacific Partnership, are emerging. In Malaysia, a recognition that historic developmental models have run their course has triggered a huge effort to find a new growth model for the future. All of these uncertainties create greater and greater complexity in our trading systems. Even ICT, which has a huge potential for facilitating and accelerating progress, brings with it its own demands for greater speed, accuracy and interaction between the various components of our supply chain. Manufacturing and trading today is multinational in nature and complex in implementation. From the multiplicity of rules of origin arising out of preferential free trade agreements, to the complexities inherent in negotiating cargo movements through more and more international borders and customs authorities, the entire logistics and supply chain system has the potential to accelerate and facilitate trade, or to bring it to a grinding halt. Thus, any initiative that seeks to bring greater standardization and efficiency to the global logistics arena can only benefit trade in particular and business in general. GCEL have an ambitious and far-reaching objective in their programme to improve logistics on a global scale, and through such efficiencies, reduce total costs and unit cost of production. This is a grand scheme which deserves to succeed and we will hear more of it this morning from our distinguished speakers. So before I invite our speakers, perhaps I might introduce those who are speaking today, and also perhaps give you a little idea of the programme for this morning. We will have 4 speakers to speak to you, to bring you some ideas about the various ramifications of the GCEL programme and other issues of interest. Following on from that, there will be a Q&A session, and we will have some alternative speakers available to assist you with that. On your tables, you should all have question cards, small postcard-sized items like this. And during the presentations, please feel free to write down your questions on these cards, which will be collected before we start the Q&A session, and we will ask our distinguished panel perhaps to address some of these questions as we go forward. Following on from the Q&A session, we will of course have lunch, and we are delighted that you're all here today to join us in this facility. Let me now briefly, and I mean briefly, introduce our very distinguished group of speakers this morning. You all have extensive CVs in your conference packs, so I am going to be very brief in my introduction. First of all, our keynote speaker, of course, is Yang Hormat Dato' Mukhlis Tun Mahathir. He is Deputy Minister in the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, or MICCI as we know them here in Malaysia. Dato' Mukhlis studied business administration in Japan, Sophia University, graduated from Boston University, and apart from his educational background, has had over 10 years' experience in business and project development during his tenure at Bank of Tokyo Mitsubishi and a multitude of other business areas. So apart from his current guise as a politician, Dato' Mukhlis has a wealth of business experience to bring to these whole questions that we'll be discussing today. Dato' Mukhlis was elected a Member of Parliament in 2008, and I think, as you're aware, was appointed to Deputy Minister of International Trade and Industry on the 10th of April previous year. Our second speaker today is Dr. Mark Grebenstadt, sitting to the right of Dato' Mukhlis there, for those of you facing the stage. Dato' Mark is Secretary General of GCEL, the Global Coalition for Efficiency Logistics. He is therefore responsible for this new major global initiative to drive down the cost of trade. Dr. Grebenstadt is also the chair of the OECD Territorial Development Policy Committee, and so has a very strong feel for trade and industry at the global international level. He has a BA in economics from Eastern College and his MS and PhD from Iowa State University. Our third distinguished speaker this morning will be MICCI Saiful Bari Muhammad Shamlan. He is Vice President of Industry Development in MDEC, the Multimedia Development Corporation of Malaysia. He's been in that position since the beginning of 2008, and as you know, MDEC is the Malaysian government-owned corporation responsible for developing the country's IT industry, as well as implementing the national IT flagship projects. All of these under the national program that we know as the Multimedia Super Corridor, or MSC. Educated in southern Illinois in computer science, MICCI Saiful has had also great experience in business, and at MDEC he's taking on the challenge to develop an entire IT industry in Malaysia. I think that's a huge challenge for anyone to take on, certainly for MICCI Saiful. Our fourth speaker this morning is Dr. Goh Mo Heng. He is the President of Business Continuity Management Institute, BCMI, and he has been also the Managing Director of the GMH Continuity Architects. His business experience includes Standard Chartered, Price Waterhouse, and he was also Executive Director of Disaster Recovery Institute, Asia, the Asian representation for DRI International.